signifies. It's time for another episode of American Dreamcatchers. I'm Mitchell Davis, and today we'll be examining the women's rights movement during the antebellum period. But first, it is very important that one knows what life was like for the women before the antebellum period.
Women were held to a specific standard. They were to stay at home and tend to children. The house was their domain. Women weren't allowed in politics, and it was even improper to see a woman drunk, even though literally everyone drank from birth. Daddy, what is she doing?
I don't know, son. Stop it! It's scaring him.
Tensions flared when states started revoking women's right to vote. Women were perceived weaker, more emotional, and morally stronger than men. You wouldn't find a woman fist-fighting in a pub or beating her husband.
Elizabeth Cady Stanton was one of the main frontrunners of the women's rights movement. Married into a well-off family, she had an educated youth and just a taste of being a housewife. She went to an anti-slavery convention in London where she and all the other female delegates there couldn't participate and were forced to sit at the back of the hall. This was also where she met Lucretia Mott, an important Quaker abolitionist speaker, and made a vow to hold a convention based off of their treatment that day. Stanton would later reside in Seneca Falls, where she decided that being a housewife just wasn't for her.
You are Miss Mittens. You're the only one that ever understands me. You know what? I think it's time that we women have our own rights.
Considered both the moral conscience of the household and the nation, it was women who were involved with reform movements. For example, education, planning to create an asylum, and being a part of many abolitionist movements. But when studying the injustices of slavery, women started to draw parallels to their own treatment. Men were reluctant to give women any rights for fear it would undermine the importance of abolition. It was these ideas that first started the women's reform movement.
One of the main motivations of women wanting to vote was the presence of alcohol. Men would go out to drink, spending the only source of money in the household. In order to protect the children and themselves from a drunken rage, changes had to be made, and regulations to salons or being able to get a job to secure the household financially. In order to do these things, women had to have a voice. They needed to vote.
Lucretia Mott was in attendance of the Waterloo Tea Party of July 1848. After first taking time to speak with imprisoned African Americans, natives in Canada, and Seneca Indians, others there were his sister and of course Elizabeth Cady Stanton. The result of the meetings was a notice that later appeared on the local Seneca County Courier newspaper.
A convention to discuss the social, civil, and religious rights of women will be held in Wesleyan Chapel at Seneca Falls, New York on Wednesday and Thursday, the 19th and 20th of July, commencing at 10 o'clock a.m. During the first day, the meeting will be exclusively for women, who are earnestly invited to attend. The public generally are invited to be present on the second day, when Lucretia Mott of Philadelphia and other ladies and gentlemen will address the convention.
Is everything okay?
No, Mrs. Mott, raising 3 kids is just not as easy as it used to be.
No, it ain't. No, it ain't.
You know, I'm just so outraged by what the New York legislation just passed about what married women owning property rights.
It's not right.
I think it is time that us women declare our rights.
Amen. What should we base it off of, though? Constitution?
No, I don't think it's demanding enough. I think we need to base it off our Declaration of Independence, so we can tell our grievances and tell men what we want.
Amen, honey. Amen.
I think we need to start writing it right now.
Let's go.
And so the women wrote their Declaration of Rights, called the Seneca Falls Declaration of Sentiments and Resolutions. In this document, they were given grievance to the rights that they were deprived of, such as no representation in government, can't own land, can't be educated. These are just a few, though. After that, the women wrote some resolutions to these problems, such as the right to be educated, the right to be treated as equals, and probably the most controversial, the right to vote.
On July 19th and 20th, 1848, in a very poorly advertised convention, 100 men and women came to the convention in Seneca Falls to hear this very revolutionary document. After the convention, both men and women voted for the ideas presented. The rights demanded by women were unanimously agreed upon. The only thing that didn't pass was the right for women to vote. This right wouldn't be obtained until the 20th century.
Hey boys.
Yes.
Ladies saw a lot of change during the antebellum period. However, one of the biggest changes seen was their appearances. Before the change, women were confined to wear corsets and several petticoats. Thanks to Mrs. Amelia Bloomer, women were able to wear looser fitting clothing and pants under their dresses. You know what these pants were called? They were called bloomers. After the conventions, women experienced and enjoyed the newfound rights that they had worked so hard to obtain. One of the first things experienced was the earning of the medical degree. The first woman to obtain her medical degree was Dr. Elizabeth Blackwell in 1849. Without the help from all the perseverance of all of her fellow women talked about in this video, this very milestone wouldn't have been achieved. Of course, this video only went into detail about the women's rights movement during the antebellum period, but all throughout U.S. history, there were many more movements that women went through to make sure they were completely equal to men. You know what that signifies? Our video presentation is over. You're welcome.
You don't have time for what? Watching that rat's nest hair of yours?
So
I am so done with you. I can't even.
Stanton was Mitchell, if you do not shut your mouth.
you're welcome.